I'm talking about AI artists. I'm talking about AI generated music. I'm talking about algorithms that are literally deciding what you see and hear before you even open the app. And honestly, it makes me ask myself, do people even care about the music industry anymore? Because I'm noticing a shift. Something is changing fast and nobody seems to notice. The industry is collapsing and it's happening right now. The other day, a friend of mine sent me a snippet on Instagram, and it was a song by an AI artist you might have heard about because she went viral a few weeks back. So let's talk about that for a second. There's this AI artist named Zaniah who actually charted a few weeks ago. And I'm not talking about some small playlist placement. She literally appeared on multiple Billboard charts for R&B, and she also had one of the fastest growing digital singles on top of that. And yeah, she's a robot on Billboard. Actually, let me correct myself. AI. And this right here became a pretty big deal. A lot of artists in the music industry were speaking out. Most notably, singer Kehlani said,
"There is an AI R&B artist who just signed a multi-million-dollar deal and has a top 5 R&B album, and the person is doing none of the work. And it'll literally rewrite, re-sing in a country voice. Nothing and no one on earth will ever be able to justify AI to me."
And a bunch of other artists like SZA and Doja Cat pushed back against it as well. And here's the kicker. The artist signed a multi-million-dollar record deal, and the music has made hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point. Now, we already clarified that this isn't a real person, but technically it kind of is. The person behind it is a woman named Talisha Jones. She did a face reveal, kind of like the one I did back in August 2023, after the AI artist went viral to clear up what she called misconceptions.
You've revealed that all of these songs are about your life. What was the inspiration for that song?
I had 2 friends who dealt with miscarriages several times. Mm-hmm. And with me, I always write. So that's where the inspiration from that song came from.
And according to her, the things that this AI artist is talking about on this music are actually, these things are based on real experiences in her life. But she's not the one making the music. She's pressing some buttons on the software called Suno AI. So all of this music is generated through AI using the software called Suno, something that rolled out a few years ago and completely changed the landscape of the music industry. Suno is co-signed by people like Timbaland, who's literally a strategic advisor for the company, and I'm sure owns some stakes in the company as well. And Suno is currently valued at around $2 billion, which means AI music isn't just coming, it's already here. Now, all of this started a bigger conversation. What the hell is actually going on in music right now? Because honestly, a lot of this kind of ties back to what was happening during the TikTok era. During the pandemic, also known as the bandemic, because those stimmy checks were hitting like crack in the 80s, TikTok became the #1 outlet for music discovery, and it still is. Maybe Instagram is competing there. I guess, that's debatable. A lot of singers and rappers blew up during that era, and it was crazy to watch, right? TikTok completely changed how the general public consumes music. For the first time ever, the song became the background, and the content itself became the main event. And right now, content plus music is basically the #1 formula for success. But this is actually frowned upon inside the music industry because a lot of artists are realizing if you're not willing to be a content creator, your music won't be seen or heard. And that's a pretty somber reality. Like, I don't even know how else to word it. Music is content, but at the same time, music is spiritual. It comes from your heart. It comes from your spirit. It's not supposed to be manufactured out of necessity for an algorithm, or at least that's how I look at it. Maybe you disagree. But most people have already noticed the music industry as we know it is basically dead. So you know how in Call of Duty there's this thing called free-for-all? Well, one of my friends, he called the modern day music industry a real life free-for-all. Everything is controlled by a machine now. What artist pops up on your timeline, what songs get pushed into your Spotify algorithm, what YouTube recommends. All of it is determined by a system that's trying to predict what you'll keep watching and what you'll actually like. And, that's good from a certain perspective, but it's also bad from another. Because this shift isn't just happening in music, it's happening everywhere. Real life is so chaotic right now. The economy, stress, cost of living. And I think the modern day music industry is kind of like a symbol for life as well, in a lot of ways. I've always believed that art and the commodified version we call the industry is a reflection of life itself. Music represents what's happening in the world and what people are responding to. I remember seeing a clip from the 90s where Prince talked about the rise of the internet, and what he said always stuck with me.
One thing I wanted to say is don't be fooled by the internet. It's cool to get on the computer, but don't let the computer get on you. Cool to use the computer, don't let the computer use you. You all saw The Matrix. There's a war going on, the battlefield's in the mind, and the prize is the soul. Just be careful.
Prince was basically saying, don't let these devices use you. You use them. And that's how I see the current landscape in music and just in life in general. There are so many things trying to use us to keep our attention locked in on one place. And even right now, right? I'm doing it. I'm speaking in order to communicate something. And for you to get it, you have to focus on what I'm saying, which means I have to keep your attention. So that's exactly what's happening in the industry right now. What you're seeing now is a bunch of systems, engines, recommendation models, data-driven machines. And it's really sad because the bottom line always comes down to this. If you're not as visible and as on as possible, you're basically going to be forgotten. And this is something I've realized over the last 2 years especially. A lot of the artists we say fell off, they didn't really fall off. They just stopped feeding what the machine wants. They stopped giving the algorithm exactly what it was hungry for. And interestingly enough, rapper Polo G, someone I still listen to till this day, said something the other day that fits this conversation perfectly. He basically talked about how the system keeps updating, i.e. the algorithm, keeps shifting, keeps forcing artists to figure out how to be seen through every new wave. They're constantly changing things within the system to work against us and play with our minds. But true talent and authenticity beats all that shit. And then he followed up with, authenticity beats the algorithm. Never switch up on what makes you, you. And this message hits especially hard coming from someone like him because he's seen what it means to be favored by the machine. For anyone who doesn't know, Polo G had one of the biggest songs, or actually, rap songs, maybe even songs of 2021. He ended up getting a #1 record on Billboard barely 3 years into his career. But now he's not as big, he's not as poppin', not because he fell off, but because he took a long break and the landscape kept changing while he was gone focusing on his personal life. And when he came back, he wasn't feeding the general public algorithm anymore. He was feeding his fans. And you see this with so many artists. Even Lizzo, someone who was one of the biggest new pop stars in the world at one point, said something similar a few months ago.
Now that we are in the digital streaming age, there is no control over the algorithm. The way that the algorithm is set up, no one can serve the masses anymore. Even though someone is following you, it's not guaranteed that they're going to see you on their FYP.
And again, this is coming from someone who is actually successful, someone who understands how this entire, this whole thing works as far as music, how things work behind the scenes. And this doesn't just apply to the music industry. It even applies to the platform we're on right now. A lot of my videos only reach a small portion of the people who are subscribed. And when I drop I get a, big video, a banger, I get flooded with comments from people saying, I didn't even see your last 3 uploads, man. What's going on? Did you stop uploading? I didn't even know you were active. I mean, there's still a huge chunk of people who don't even know I took the mask off. For anyone who's not in the knowing, I used to be anonymous on YouTube for like 6-7 years. But here's a silver lining in all of this. Even though the industry is changing in ways none of us expected, there are still a lot of artists building communities, people connecting with them, not because of the numbers or the algorithms, but because something in their music, their energy, their presence, and their persona hits. And honestly, it's not just about the music anymore. Like right now, everything is so far from just about the music. The music is more like the soundtrack to what the artist represents. Their story matters in the grand scheme of things more than ever right now. And I get it, the general consumer is confused. People think the quality of music is going down, but the truth is there's just so much of it now. So when you hear something that just ain't really good, something that, people would call mid, yeah, I guess this is how music just sounds nowadays. But nah, that's not really the case. That's just what you're being served on repeat. And once you realize that, it connects to something even bigger. The fact that the whole industry as we know it is falling apart in real time and nobody's really paying attention and nobody really cares. And the reason people don't notice it or really care is simple. People are dealing with real life shit. Let me be blunt for a second. I just don't think people actually give a fuck like that because there are way more important things happening. The economy, job insecurity, rent, bills, stress, your girlfriend nagging you, or your boyfriend acting like a bitch. So, excuse my French, acting up. Life is lifing for all of us, right? Music will always matter, at least for me. It's always going to be a part of my life. And this is how I look at it. The reason why you probably don't listen to most of the things that are coming out right now is because when you do find something you love, it's not just the sound, it's the way the sound makes you feel in the middle of all the chaos we're living through right now in these current times. Because let's be real, we're all in a tornado right now. I don't care if you're broke, I don't care if you got money, life is stressing everybody in some way, and nobody's gonna escape that. It's impossible. So when you zoom out, you start realizing these things in music aren't random. They're connected to everything else that's shifting around us, especially spiritually. I'm very big on that, especially now, more than ever. Our attention spans, our stress levels, our routines, the way we move, the way we think, and the way we consume art. The industry didn't just collapse out of nowhere. It collapsed because life collapsed first. People are tired. People are overwhelmed. And when that happens, the things we used to care about like discovering new artists or keeping up with new releases, they just don't really hit like that anymore. Cause shit, them bills jump at you like a hyena before the music even gets a chance to speak or play, okay? So music didn't get worse, life just got louder. But that's just what I think. I'm very curious what you guys think about this conversation. Do you even care that the music industry as we know it is basically collapsing? And yo, if you made it this far, drop a like, okay? Actually helps more than you realize. All right, y'all? I'll catch you guys on the next video. I'm out this bitch. Peace.